Food for Thought with Professor David Bitte.
One of the most amazing things that God gave the human being is your mind. Because as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Welcome to Food for Thought with Professor Ndete. Over the last 2 episodes, we have been going through a conversation, unpacking depression and understanding what depression is, what causes it, and how to prevent it. We haven't quite finished that conversation, and we want to pick up from where we left off on the last episode. So how should we interact with somebody we know is going through a depression? How can we help them? Supposing it's a family member or a friend you know, and you've noticed, or probably they've even reached out and they're telling you, I'm feeling very low. What am I supposed to do?
Well, there are different ways in which you can get involved. First, the most important thing is that we assume that this is a friend that you know fairly well. They can be a friend or a family member at a family institution. It can be a workmate, or it just can be somebody that you meet in some social gatherings or social events, and this is a person you have known for some time. And you begin to observe them, and you notice some of the symptoms that I have mentioned to you.
Yes.
The most important thing is to positively engage with them. Do not stigmatize them. And don't you ever think that just because a person is depressed, is a weak person. And that is a person who cannot manage his affairs or affairs. Some of the most successful politicians, and we have an example of a prime minister in one of the Scandinavian countries who was doing very well and very popular. She became depressed, and she went public and said, I am depressed, and I'm going to take time off. That is a very well-known story. And people in that country really understood. And when she got over the depression, they wanted her to come back. So never stigmatize a person who is depressed. Having said that, engage them in a positive way, find out what is happening, and very importantly, find out, without appearing to be judgmental, whether there is a possibility that this person might be suicidal. Suicide, a common cause of suicide is depression. And they say in every 1 second, 3 people in the world commit suicide.
Wow.
So it's a very common condition.
Okay.
So positive engagement. If it is at the family level, even long before they can be able to see a professional, you, the friend of that person, you who is interacting with that person, and I'm talking to the viewers, you, if you know that person you are interacting with, if it's a family member, if it's a workmate, you may be the most important person as to whether this person will get help, or if you cannot give that help yourself, you slowly suggest to them, maybe we can look for somebody.
Okay.
And I believe that in this country, we have many people who have trained in psychological medicine one way or other, and we have very many counselors, we have clinical officers, we have nurses, we have trained them, we have even trained faith healers, religious people. Listen, many people, and this is a fact which we cannot run away from. And I'm talking to the pastors now. If there are any pastors who are listening, it's very important that they understand the symptoms of depression, so that when these people go to them, because by nature, if I have a problem, the first person I will go to is my pastor.
Very true.
And I don't want my pastor to start telling me that you are demon possessed, or this is because of something else. Maybe that is a way he explained, that is his explanatory model. But then I want them to understand there is another explanatory model the one that I talked about, a medical model.
Yes.
If we are able to do that, and we get thousands of pastors and religious leaders to understand this, we will go a long, long, long way in treating this condition.
Okay. How is depression treated, Professor? You said it's a medical condition, so there must be a medical way to treat it. How is it treated?
Well, the most important form of treatment is what we call talking therapy. It comes in different forms. Sometimes we call it psychotherapy, but the talking therapy. The feeling that there is somebody who understands how you are feeling and is able to empathize with you, is able, as it were, to put himself in the shoes so that he or she can see or feel the world the way you are feeling it. That in itself has a lot of therapeutic effect, being understood. So talking, psychotherapy, talking about these things very freely. Anybody can do that. You don't have to be trained. You don't have to go for any kind of training for you to be able to understand that you can have positive engagement with people, the person that is sitting in front of you.
Yes.
Then there are other more technical interventions. Some of them have been, many of them, one of them we call it cognitive behavioral therapy. Cognitive is something to do with your mind, how you see things. Behavioral therapy is how you change your behavior once you change your mindset, and that will lead to improvement in your condition. So behavioral cognitive therapy, in very simple terms, you sit with a person who is going through this condition, and they will tell you the world is terrible. Terrible things are happening all over the place, and they may list 1,000, at least 100 reasons why they think that things are terrible. But then, if you reason with them, they will ask them, isn't there anything in your life that is positive?
Yeah.
And surely they will find something that is positive and hang on to that. If you can talk about that positive thing and how you can improve that positive thinking, start seeing things in a slightly better way, or shall I say a different way, you begin to understand that things are not as bad as you think. What you are going through, many people are going through that and they have been able to overcome. The fact that you know somebody went through this and they have been able to overcome is very powerful. So in that process, you change their way of thinking.
Yes.
Then they will start changing their behavior and they start feeling better. We call it cognitive behavioral therapy. It is achieving a lot of significance in the way we treat people with this condition.
Okay.
Then, of course, there will be a situation where the depression is so bad, these people are not eating, they are not sleeping, and they have come to a point where you cannot even reason with them, and they are suicidal.
Yes.
And when you are dealing with people who are suicidal, you need to be extremely careful because you don't want to lose life. Then you can initiate some types of treatment and antidepressants that are available. But let me say that it comes towards the end. 90% of patients can be treated in the ways I've suggested.
Okay.
And only a very small percentage will need medicines.
Okay. Back to the whole issue about talking. One of the things I realize is that when it comes to talking, it comes naturally to women. Women get together. Women have got all sorts of groups that they get together and they just want to talk. But for us men, we don't really connect very well when it comes to talking unless we have an activity we are doing. So I don't know whether in your practice you find that it's more difficult for men to open up than women. And how do we deal with this issue?
I think if somebody can see I'm smiling, and let me tell you why I'm smiling.
Yes.
Because I've just been reviewing literature this morning on a paper that I'm writing. And these people were talking about community cohesion and the community support. That is the kind of community that, and this was what that was done in the United States, most of it done in the United States. And they were saying that, or they rather found that in communities where there is social cohesion, is that people in the neighborhood are able to support one another.
Yeah.
They are able to come together and talk about their problems. Then this mitigates against development of depression. So sharing with other people, social cohesion, being socially connected with friends, where you can really go and talk to people, yes, it helps.
One final question on this whole issue of depression, Professor. I find that sometimes in our culture, people are a bit skeptical about seeing a professional, seeing a psychiatrist, seeing a psychologist, whatever it is. There's a kind of stigma attached to it. Anything to do with the mind, some of us still have the old way of thinking. Huyo ni mtu wa madhare. And when we hear the name Madhara, we are thinking that person is mad. How do we change this perception so that people are more open to find people that they can, professionals that they can sit down with and talk with and sort out their issues? Because the other thing is, a lot of us think it's too expensive.
Well, I think we are talking about stigma. Please never say to anybody you are a Madhara case.
Yes.
Or your mental case. Never do that, because that is very, very stigmatizing. But having said that, I can understand why they talk like that. You are basically ignorant. Sorry to put this.
Very true.
Just because they do not understand what is happening, it does not mean that they can go to a conclusion that this is a Madhara case. If you hear somebody saying this is a Madhara case or this is a mental case, take pity for him. He's just basically ignorant. And I have no hesitation in saying that. If they don't understand, why can they find out what this person is going through instead of using their ignorance to make a wrong conclusion and start stigmatizing people?
Yes.
In fact, stigmatization is the commonest cause for people not to go and look for mental health treatment. Because they say, what will people think about me? There's nothing to be ashamed about depression. You did not have a choice. And nobody is immune from depression. I can get depressed. You can get depressed. Anybody can get depressed. So stigmatization is as a result of ignorance, because people don't understand what is happening to this person. Anybody can get depressed.
Wow. Professor, thank you so much for your time talking to us about depression. Indeed, the Bible says, my people perish for lack of knowledge. I pray that with the knowledge that we are gaining through these conversations, you're able to identify if you're sinking into depression and find the help that you can need. Do not isolate yourself. Do not take it lightly. Find somebody to talk to, somebody who can get you back on your feet again. That's food for thought for today. Thanks for watching.